And this property, we lost a lot of money on. Do you remember how much we lost on this?
Nope. 40, 50, somewhere in that range. It was a lot.
Yeah, it was not fun. And yours truly, I was the one that bought this one. So, yay. Um, Gosh, it sucks to admit this. This one sucked.
All right, guys, here we go now. It is time to unlock more doors to deals. We're real estate investors here. We're real estate agents here, and we all have one thing in common. We believe that we can. We can live the life of our purpose. We can create financial freedom. We can build a better life for those that we love, and we can live the life of our dreams. I don't care if you're trying to do your first deal or your 500th this year. You can get to the next level, and we're here to help. Welcome to Doors to Deals. I'm your host and founder, Jim Manning. Today's episode can be found on doorstodeals.com/bonus 004. Ryan and I have decided to share with our Three Doors Network members some stories on deals that we've done in the past that just haven't worked out. What I found over the course of the last 13 plus years is that I tend to learn the most from bad deals that I've done. And unfortunately, Ryan and I have had more than we care to admit. And anyway, we just wanted to share with you guys so that you can learn from them and hopefully not make some of the same mistakes that we have. So this training is invaluable for you, regardless of your skill or your experience level. These mistakes are 100% preventable if you just know what we know now. So skip the school of hard knocks and learn from our mistakes and save yourself thousands and thousands of dollars. And just so you know that this is just one training of over 3 years worth of content that our Three Doors Network members have access to in our online training vault. Okay, so let's get started.
Okay, so we are going to talk about a lot of great things today. We're going to go over in our history some of the bad buys that we've done, and we're going to talk about kind of the art of what we do and kind of the science behind it. And the goal and the effort of this is going to be to help you guys not make some of the same mistakes that we have and be able to kind of see some just see some of the elements to these projects that we've done and what's worked out well and what hasn't. And we're also going to talk about specifically rental properties. What does Three Doors Properties look for when we buy rental properties for ourselves, and what's our criteria and everything like that. And so we're going to get to that in just a second. I do want to talk about one thing that's going on in the marketplace to start out with. So right now, there's a lot of uncertainty going on right now, right? So the Dow a month ago was at 29,000-ish, and then on Monday it was at 23.8 thousand. So we have uncertainty happening. The stock market's kind of going up and down. And is this something that we should be scared of in real estate as real estate investors? Okay. So one of the interesting things on this is if you look in nature, there's one bird that actually takes volatility and takes a storm and heads straight towards it, and it's the eagle. Okay, so the eagle might be flying through the desert and there's a dust storm, and what it does is it flies directly into the storm, locks its wings, and the storm lifts it up above the storm, and then it just floats around and it doesn't have to spend any energy, and it's at a higher height than it could have been on its own. So back when we started or Ryan, you started in 2005, was that right? I think I started in 2007.
I started in 06. Yeah.
In 06. Okay. So the market was tanking when we started. Okay. And when I started, there was a lot of fear. My parents, my friends were all kind of why would you be heading towards this storm, towards this volatility? And I think I got into it because I was well, I want to get good at it. I think there's money and there's opportunities to be made even in the down market. And I want to develop my skill set so when it swings back up, I know what the heck I'm doing. And what we learned, I think the biggest lesson that we learned in the volatility is that there's money to be made in every market. It's just a matter of matching the strategy, the exit strategy, like what you're doing with what's going on in the market. So what I would say, what I'd encourage you all to do is just in this environment, if you are shrewd and have the right strategy, it's actually an opportunity to really benefit from the volatility. So, and Ryan, let me just say one more thing really quick, Ryan, and then I do want your input on this. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Okay, so we remember 2008, okay? We remember thinking, oh my God, what a recession, and house prices, oh my Lord. And in 2008, house prices took a nosedive across the board. The average decrease was 19.7%, okay? But let's look bigger than just one recession. Let's look at the last 5 and what has happened. So in the last 5, 3 out of the last 5 recessions, home prices have actually appreciated and gone up. And there was one other one that they depreciated, and that was only negative 1.9%. Okay, guys? So in this environment, what I believe is going to be happening, I actually think that for real estate investors, this volatility is going to be a really good thing. We're going to have people with a lot of money that have a lot of money in the stock market that are going to want to diversify and get into real estate. So as shrewd investors, we can take advantage of that. So Ryan, what's your input on this really quick?
First off, I'd say throwing out the recession is an interesting word because I would argue we're not in one right now. It might be the precipitous of one. We don't really know. From an economic perspective, everything's going really well right now. And we are facing something that might cause mass hysteria. So for that, yeah, maybe we might be entering one. I agree with you that historically, recessions don't mean that the housing industry hurts or is hurt. In addition to that, as I mentioned last week, we're in an amazing time within real estate in general. Interest rates, they're about ready to be on a historic low. The general house or the general person who owns a home has equity in the house, probably the most equity we've ever had. And then lastly, the housing economy, just the housing economy, has continued to go up. So some people, I mentioned it last week on the Ask Me Anything, Barry Habib calls it, the trifecta of all 3 of those. It doesn't happen often, and we are in a time where there is a lot to like about housing and where we're at. So we can absolutely have a good year.
Yeah, and to add to that, guys, so like I'm bringing up the recession just as an example of what's happened. I agree with you. That is a very, very strong word to be using, and please do not read anything into it. I mean, like the economy and things are going well right now. We do have the coronavirus and some of the fears and some of the things that are going on right now. So please don't interpret that as me saying, "Hey, I think a recession is coming," because that was not my intention with saying that. Really, my intention with this is hey, volatility is happening, and as an investor and to be a shrewd one, let's lean into it and let's take advantage of what's going on and help it grow our business and help us and have it help us make more money. Let's not be afraid of this. Okay. So let's not be afraid of it. So, okay, so that's good. And I'm going to pull up some of the properties. I'm going to share my screen with you. So the first property that we wanted to talk about was 70 Frameouth. So this property was way back in 2011 was when we did this deal. And what's interesting about it is it's a barn. Let's see if I can pull up another listing. So this barn was a red barn, and we made it a tan barn. So back in 2011, beige was in. I think, was it Kiln beige? I forget the name of the paint that we would use on all of our stuff.
We used Kiln beige. Yep.
Kiln beige. Yeah. So this was Kiln beige. Well, Vincent knows all about Kiln beige. I think I saw him on the call here, but yeah, I mean, we didn't even do white trim here. We did this like nasty brown stuff. The picture leaves something to be desired too. We didn't have the best picture here showing the whole house. I don't know why we did that. Anyway, so it took us 232 days to sell this. We thought we were going to get 164 for it, and we ended up getting 134.9. So we took a bath of $30,000 on what we were hoping to get from it. 2,000 square feet. And looking back at it, of what I feel, it'd be interesting to hear, Ryan, what your opinion is on it. What I feel like happened was when we looked at this, we thought 165 all day because the square feet of this house is 2,000 square feet. So we just did, we were really obsessed with running things on price per square foot. So we took the price per square foot times that was going on in the area, times it by 2,000, and got to the 165 and thought, okay, well, this is a no-brainer deal. We're going to make a lot of money on this, and it's going to work out for us. And what happened was I think we actually did end up making a couple grand on it. So we bought it low enough to where we were safe and didn't take a bath on this deal. But the lesson that I believe I learned from this is really being aware of uniqueness, and you have to factor that in when you're factoring in the value of a house. So like if I'm comparing a barn to other houses that aren't barns, well, I may need to adjust it if I feel like the uniqueness is a negative to the average buyer. Ryan, what do you think on this? I'm kind of interested in your opinion on this one.
Can you hear me now better?
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, okay. That's perfect, buddy.
All right. So, if you look at the year, I think the year is important in this as well. It was 2011, and the market was still on the rebound. So it was an interesting time to sell properties. And the uniqueness of the property certainly didn't help. So we were in a market that was difficult to sell houses because we were all still rebounding from 2008, 2009, and we had a unique house. So yeah, we should have factored in that this property wasn't going to sell for as much as we thought, even though we were highly aware and in tune with the price per square foot. What I actually did while you were talking, Jim, is I went and just to see what the history of this property has been since we sold it.
Yeah.
And it has actually been on the market a total of 6 other times.
Oh, baby.
Three times it failed to sell, and 3 times it actually has sold. So it's sold 3 times since 2012, which is when we sold this. 2016 for 145, 2018 for 188, and 2020, just this year, for 215. So it has continued to show appreciation, has continued to go up, and the pictures don't look much different from when they did when we sold it.
So what's interesting about it is, and this is where like the art and the science come through, right? So like in my head, I just had this, okay, well, I learned this lesson on, I messed the screen. I'm going to pull it back. In my head, I had like, oh, well, it had to have been because it was a barn, so we weren't able to squeeze everything price per square foot and out of it that we could have. And then when you look at this history, it's kind of like, okay, well, is there maybe a little bit more going on? Is it a little bit more complicated of a thing than just making it that simple and making it that simple of a rule? And what's interesting is, so let's pull up I think there's some pictures in this one. Let's see. So, oh man, this is the sideway one. So if you're selling a house, by the way, a good tip, guys, is make sure the agent doesn't put properties in sideways like this. That's crazy. Hopefully y'all are turning your head like I am on this one. Did we carpet the main floor like that, Ryan? I guess we did, because this is a couple of years after we did this house.
Yeah, we did. So if you go to 2020, the biggest change that they made is they put in it looks like some new flooring. It looks kind of like hardwood, but I'm going to guess.
Well, they got the trendy gray. They did paint it again.
They did paint it again, and then
with the white trim, so that's nice.
For those of you who are looking on, the photos make a vast difference.
Oh yeah, this is insane. The difference on these two. Professional photos are a big deal.
Huge deal. So you have someone that put everything in there sideways. It took them 26 days to sell it. They sold it for let's see, they listed for 164, they sold for 145.
Yeah, it's 26 days, 145. Okay. And so then this one, so it looks like they took out the carpet, kind of the nasty carpet. And so when I went in this house, I remember really liking like this setup here, like kind of like the openness. I thought was kind of cool. But here was the issue. The feedback we got when we were selling it is look how small that kitchen is. It's just a teeny little thing. So not only is it a barn, we had another strike going against us, is that the kitchen just kind of sucked a little bit, right?
Yep.
So then they did a nice job getting the new flooring in, but they didn't do anything with this was the stuff we put in as far as the kitchen goes.
Yep, they kept the kitchen the same.
They have it nice and staged. Basically, this is the same. I remember this tile from when we did it, so they didn't. So this is probably what we had in there as well. And yeah, so then they were able to get in 4 days, 215. So a little bit different market too, like a little bit hotter of a market, right? But looking back, so how much, Ryan, do you think of it as like the market, or did we make some poor decisions on the finishings? Do you think, as far as not putting in nice flooring, what do you think on that?
We could have absolutely done some things differently, and probably maximized a little bit better value, and also we probably didn't do anything terribly wrong other than when we bought it, we anticipated too high of a price. You've heard the adage that you make money when you buy a property, not when you sell it. That holds true in whatever market you're in. The difference being that if you're in a market that's appreciating, which we're in now, okay, then maybe you can expect the house to appreciate a little bit more if you sell it from now until September. That's a probability. Is it an absolute? No. In 2011, you could probably safely assume that market was stagnant or even possibly going down. It might have been going up slightly, but we were still in flux. So
it was a very slow moving market, 2011.
Yeah, all of that has to be taken into account. And to answer your question again, I think we could have done some things slightly differently. And clearly it has sold 3 times since and continue to appreciate with minimal change. The changes that you see in those photos from 2020 were actually made by whomever owned it from 2016 to 2018, because the same gray, the same flooring is in those photos in 2018. So, every owner has done a little bit to it, it looks like, or at least minor changes to make it a little bit better. And that's what's going to happen with any house. So by and large, it's still more or less the same house. We could have potentially done gray, made it more, appealing from the street. That was something that we got a lot of feedback from. And keep in mind, if you recall, we bought a red barn. It was absolutely red, and we definitely made it better.
Well, and it's hard to look at. So like I want to vomit a little bit on how this house looks right there, but the kiln beige was kind of what the gray is now. Like that was what was fashionable at the time. So I don't know if I even blame us for what we did there. Maybe we should have done the white trim, because I think white trim was still going on in 2011. I believe we just tried to save a little bit of money there. Maybe I don't know why we made that decision, but okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, so there's a science to it and an art to it, but by looking back in the history of your deals, there's a lot of lessons we can learn. Okay, so let's go to the next property, which is okay. I think I want to do this one. Wabash.
Oh boy.
All right, I'll let you start on this while I pull up the map view of this on Google Maps.
So I was going to actually ask you to go back, but this works all the same.
Okay.
Who thinks it'd be a good idea to buy a house on a 4-lane street that is on the corner of another 4-lane street that also backs to a spillway or a waterway, which is called River to Pear for those of you who are local? And oh wait, it doesn't end there. There's one more factor, which is it's a slab in an area where slabs aren't prevalent. So you have a strike that it's on a major road. You have a second strike that it's on a second major road. You have a third strike that it's a slab. I'm going to break order there. And then you have your fourth strike, which is the backyard is, in fact, river to pair. If you want to go, Jim, and do the little...
Maybe this right here. This will do it.
There you go. Backyard is this river to pair, which it's not a... When I say it's river to pair, it's not something that would be a turn on. It is river to pair, again, is a spillway. It's a waterway. It's a runoff. It does not get consistent
Kinda
water.
Smells a little bit at times too, doesn't it?
Some people have given it a different name. So it's not it's not an elegant river is what I'm trying to get at. And so all four of those things are negative. So we bought a house with essentially four negatives. This was actually at a time where the market wasn't very good. This was a complete and utter miss of a buy. This is when you're doing it because you want to do something. In my opinion, it's not because you're necessarily doing it for the right reasons. I feel like this was we want to buy something that we should be buying it.
Yeah, and then so the price per square foot on this one was. I think we looked at it's 1,200 square feet. We're getting it at a low price. Like for sure, we'll be able to get 95 for this home, and it didn't happen because the buyers were going in and they're looking at all this stuff. And one of the things like we learned is I'm going to speak for me. I can't speak for Ryan, but I was obsessed with price per square foot. I thought that's the end all be all. If I just find other comps that have the comparables that have the same price per square foot, I'm good. And just the common sense element of it's a 4-lane road here. It's a 4-lane road here. What is the location of the property? And does the buyer want to live there? Is it a positive thing or a negative thing? That all is really important, the common sense element to it. So yeah, we reached on this one, and this one somehow, some way, I think we broke even on this one too, right? It was within a couple grand. I wonder what we bought it for.
We bought it for 70. We sold it for 79.9. But we didn't have we didn't put anything into it.
Yeah, so it was right there on it. Yeah, it was right there on it. Okay. Okay, so that's really what the biggest lessons on this one, Ryan. What do you think? So just to recap.
The biggest lesson is, I just think you said it, was use common sense. There are properties where you look at it and you say, okay, that should not be a rehab, should not be something that you're buying to necessarily profit from with the sale of it. This is a great rental property. That's that property. I don't think someone bought it to keep as a rental. I'm pretty sure that it was an owner occupant that bought it, but in all reality, that property should be a rental property because of where it's at and the negatives that it has. And there are some properties that really should just be rentals because most end users won't want to buy them. And there's an overarching, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but this along with the first one and the next one that you bring up, Jim, there's going to be some common themes that we're going to be able to discuss and talk about on all of them. So what you got next, Jim?
I want to do Forest. Let's see here. I'm going through some old. Where is this guy?
Forest Crest, right there. 14151. Yeah,
there we go. Okay. Okay, so I want to talk about this bad boy next. So this is in West County, which is actually only about 5 minutes away from where I grew up. A real nice area. I'd say probably this is a upper middle class to maybe an upper middle class neighborhood. Would you classify that as this?
Yeah, it's a nice neighborhood.
Yeah, we're a very nice neighborhood. So this is in Parkway Schools, which is one of the better school districts as well. And this property, we lost a lot of money on. Do you remember how much we lost on this?
Nope. 40, 50, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, it was not fun. And yours truly, I was the one that bought this one. So yay. Gosh, it sucks to admit this. This one sucked. Okay, so let's talk about a couple things on this one. So the lot, okay, so lot size over half an acre in West County Parkway Schools. That's awesome, right? Like that's really cool. And yet we didn't have one feedback on anyone that liked the yard. And actually we had some negative feedback on it. So one of the most important things that we learned on this one is the placement of where the house is on the lot does matter. So in this case,
well, and real quick, I'll stop you there, Jim. This
Okay.
doesn't actually show the terrain. So the backyard, I don't believe this is actually accurate either. The
I don't think it's
backyard,
accurate either. Yeah.
backyard was only like maybe 10, 15 feet. That was all that there was from the house to the neighbor, and the front yard was massive. You have a massive circle drive that it doesn't appear as though it's depicted in any of these.
So here's the front yard and then the backyard. I mean, the backyard was so bad we didn't really even like.
Yeah, well, show that
Photos of
photo. Show the photo. Well, there's one, but show that one right there. Yep, that's a side view of the minimal back that there was. There was just essentially no backyard. There was a side yard. There was a huge front yard. There was plenty of yard that someone could utilize, and the feedback that we consistently got was the yard wasn't what the buyer wanted. So we thought, okay, we have a really nice house in a really nice neighborhood. We renovated it. You could argue that we did a couple things incorrectly. Jim was very adamant that keeping the pergo flooring in this particular house
I screwed that one up too.
Was
Was
a good idea. Which-
Yeah, the Virgo flooring.
I disagreed, but not enough. that made
No,
the
yeah,
change.
you should have gotten me out of that one. And then like you step down into the living room. People don't really like that anymore.
But regardless, it was a nice rehab. It was well done. It's a couple of years old at this point, so maybe the trends aren't what they are now. And we even finished the basement partially. All that being said, the negative of the yard was just so hard to overcome that it created this delay of selling the property. Go back to the year real quick, Jim. I don't know what year it was.
2015.
Okay, so I mean, we are in a market that should have been really easy, hypothetically, to sell a property. And yet it's took us more than a year to finally sell this. And from what we started out to what we ended up selling, there was a $62,000 difference. That's massive.
And you know what's interesting on this one too is like the kitchen. It's hard for me to represent this. So the kitchen, like this is a nice kitchen. And what people didn't like was, where's that other photo? It didn't have like the open floor plan. It's a real boxy floor plan to where you had to like go down and then up, and like people just didn't like it. Like had we just put an extra, I don't know, 10, 15K into the kitchen, made this like a little bit more like open feeling, a little bit more modern of a floor plan, we probably would have gotten another 30, 40 grand on this flip. I would think. I mean, Ryan, I'm talking out of my, you know what, a little bit here, but Ryan, what do you, because that was a negative too. People said, I don't really like the layout.
So, and that's a hypothetical. I wouldn't want to speculate on that. What I would say is that we try to open up. You can clearly see in this photo that we open the kitchen up to the living room. We have to the right of this photo, you see that there is a breakfast bar. So we did try to account for the fact that the kitchen might not be as desirable as possible by opening it up and by also putting in and updating that breakfast bar that is to the right there. So I thought we had tried to account for whatever inefficiencies or deficiencies rather that we may have had within the kitchen, and clearly we didn't. So yes, we did get some of that feedback. I wasn't exactly sure why. Maybe someone who's smarter than I am, there's plenty of them out there, could have figured out a better design for this kitchen. And
yeah, we probably would have had to move the stairs, you know, like, I mean, so the 10 by 10 grand, that's not realistic. We would have had to put in a pretty substantial amount more into it, but modernizing it would have helped out a lot.
ultimately, here's what happens. So a property like this, people get into it, they see it, they may even like it because it's got the beautiful front, it's got the nice drive. You get into it, and maybe you see the pergo flooring, maybe you don't like that. We haven't mentioned that it only had half of a basement because whatever reason, the people who built this property decided they only wanted to do half of a basement. The other half was a crawl space. Odd. That's an oddity here in St. Louis. You either normally have all or nothing. And
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Typically
Yeah.
all. So you have the pergo flooring. You have the kitchen that might not be ideal. You have half of a basement, and you have a backyard that isn't phenomenal. Really is not there. So there's 4 possible items that a buyer could be like, oh, nope, I don't like it. And maybe 3 of them aren't a big deal for you. But if one of them is a big deal, that is just compounds to the other 2, 3, or 4 that are big deals, or I'm sorry, not big deals, but are deals for you. So maybe you don't like the backyard. Okay, well, I could get over the backyard if everything else about the house I really loved, but I don't love everything else about the house.
And that's really where that's the common theme on pretty much all the bad buys that we've had is that common sense. Who was your buddy that would call it the sizzle factor? Rob or
Ralph? Yeah,
Ralph would call it the sizzle factor. So go talk about that a little bit.
And we never did this, but Ralph was one that he would love to put the sizzle factor in. And a sizzle factor for him was he'd spend $3,000 on a chandelier, $4,000 on a chandelier because it looked amazing. And it was like the focal point of when someone would enter the house. They see the really expensive, really awesome chandelier, and he's like, that's the sizzle factor. So for every one of his houses, he liked to put in a sizzle factor, if you will. And it was, again, we never took that approach, but I always thought it was an interesting one, and he always had a lot of success in doing it.
So, and it's really the common sense. Yeah, it's when a buyer walks through it, are they seeing pergo flooring, bad backyard? Are they seeing half basement, blocky layout? Then they're saying no. And you flip it, like if like a house has a half-acre lot and it's like an awesome backyard, it's great open layout, like you name it, plus, and that's where a lot of these swings happen.
Yep.
Okay.
On to Wes Watson, huh?
On to Wes Watson. Will you kick this one off, buddy?
Hey there, if you're looking to get the ultimate edge for your real estate investing company, go to doorstodeals.com/invest for more information. Just so you know, a high percentage of the people that we interview on this podcast are actually already Three Doors Network members. And our network members have a lot of extra resources. They have access to an online training vault with over 3 years worth of content in it. They have access to vendor savings like our Home Depot discount. That's literally saved thousands of dollars for members. And we have a weekly group coaching call, and we have a lot of other great things as well as part of the Three Doors Network. So make sure that you check it out on doorstodeals.com/invest.
On to Wes Watson, huh?
On to Wes Watson. Will you kick this one off, buddy?
We still own Wes Watson. It's the longest property we've owned, at least that we intend to sell. And it was one of my buys.
Yes, that's what I was just about to say that. One of Ryan's buys.
My buys. Yep. I'll own it, and I'll own the mistakes with it as well. So Wes Watson, we have several rivers here in St. Louis. One of them is the Merrimack. The Merrimack flooded in, it was, let's see, Jim, I think what wasn't it, December 2015? December 2015 or December 2016 is when we bought this. Let's see. It was December 2015. Yeah, I know that. So we had a flood right around Christmas, December 2015. And this happened to be in that flood zone. It hadn't flooded quite that bad before. And if you're looking at that photo, it essentially got up to the top of the front door. Right around the top of the front door was the water elevation in this entire area, specifically on this house. So we bought it. The owners did a really good job of remediating anything that came from the water. It was gutted on the first floor, pretty well nice on the second floor. Everything in the basement was gutted as well. So we bought it, and we got some bids to rehab it. We decided to try to sell it as is. So we had it under contract a couple times, and then it didn't go through. So, okay, fast forward, we said we're going to rehab it. So we rehabbed it. 2017, I think it was 2017. Maybe it was a spring. I want to say it was the spring of 2017 because we bought this in the spring of 2016. So the spring of 2017, lo and behold, another flood. And it was around the same water elevation, same water level. And the photos that Jim was just going through actually show it as it's currently in right now, in the gutted form. So we unfortunately experienced a flood. We had to lose everything that we renovated on the first floor, and then we had a decision to make as to how we're going to move forward. And with 2 floods in the span of 18 months, it's difficult to get additional. It's difficult to renovate those properties in flood zones because there's restrictions as to how much you can improve a property in a flood zone in a time frame. I don't remember. I looked at it a long time ago. I want to say it's like 5 years. It's 5 or 7 years, I think, that you can put in X amount. It's basically like 49%, 49 cents for the appraised value. So hypothetically, if it's $100,000, I think you can only improve it $49,000 during that 5 to 7 years. So that means you can only put in or take out permits for that amount of money during that time. Wasn't aware of that when we bought it. Found that out after the fact because now we've had an issue in trying to get it either renovated or resold. We still own it, as I said. I think we've got a solution for this property. And the renovation hopefully will be starting soon on it, only 4 years later. And we actually, lo and behold, may end up being able to break even on this deal, which is crazy to say. We'll see when it's all said and done. But this was one where we clearly took a risk. We knew it was in a flood zone. We knew it was flooded. That's why we were able to buy it at the price we were. What isn't depicted in this photo that you see is the amazing, and I'm not kidding, the amazing landscape that is in the front, back, and side yard of this property. There is one house. That house is no longer there. There was one house next to this property. If you're looking at it, was to the left, and there was another 4 or 5 before you got to another road. As Jim's pulling it up here on the Google Street View, you can see there's nothing else around it to the side or in the front and the back. And you actually, I think you're muted, bud. But yeah, this is a golf course in the front. There's a golf course in the back.
Like kind of like over here.
Yep. So
and then,
when I say that
it's an acre lot, it's a pretty flat acre lot as well.
So, and when I say that this is an amazing location, it is. And the only reason that it didn't sell immediately and sell for an unbelievably high price is because of the flood zone and the flood concern. So what we learned on this one is that flood zones really need to be treated as they should, with care and carefully, and make sure that
we
know the risk.
had this under contract twice, right? One of which, was it the second time where we were a week away from selling and then it flooded again, like massively?
So we had it under contract to sell to a buyer after it was renovated, and during their inspection period is when the flood hit. So they sent us an inspection notice saying that clearly they couldn't inspect it, and they sent a
because it's in the middle of a lake, basically.
Yep. So here's the interesting part about this deal. This is one where we we have to at times get creative as real estate investors, and we try to get extremely creative with this property. We looked into moving it onto a different lot. We looked into raising the house up because we could have done the renovations if we raised the house up to flood zone or flood elevation levels. We looked into every possible scenario to fix this so that we could move on or find another exit with it. We finally have one, which is we're likely to joint venture with a guy who's a do-it-yourselfer and who's going to do most of the work himself, so thus keeping the price super, super low. We're giving him the upside of the potential profit. We really just want to break even on the deal. If it works out, it works out. We're still not quite under construction, though we're literally weeks away, hopefully. So we'll see.
So beware when you have a floodplain.
Absolutely. Yeah. So real quick, we went over 4 different deals, and the one thing that Jim and I, when we talked about them, I don't know if we need to go over East Adams or not, Jim, because if you look at the time, we're at 10:42.
Okay, yeah, we got to get to the rentals. Yeah.
The East Adams is another one. Every single property that we've ever lost on, it's because, in my opinion, it had uniqueness. Now, Jim said when we were talking about this, well, yeah, it's a bad uniqueness or a negative uniqueness. I said, no, I don't agree with that. I just think it's uniqueness. That doesn't mean it's bad. Did it affect the price in a negative way? Sure. Uniqueness only means to me that your buyer pool has been minimized or lessened. So if I had 100 buyers, maybe if this property like you're looking at on East Adams, maybe only 25 of those 100 buyers will even look at it and are interested in it because of X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, that doesn't necessarily mean that the price is going to go down. It does mean the price will go down after those 25 buyers either A, look at it, or B, pass on it, because you don't have another 75 after that to look at it, right? So your buyer pool, whenever you're buying a property that's got a unique location, it's got a unique issue, such as a flood zone, got a unique slab, like here in St. Louis, got a unique feature, you're going to lessen or minimize your buyer pool. So
I mean,
just keep that in mind.
Yeah, pools really work the same way. That's a great example. There's people that will not buy a house with a pool, no matter if it's $100,000 pool, right? And then there's other people that will buy it in, less in like an hour because they've been looking for a property in a location that has a pool. So, absolutely. Okay, so Ryan, you had 3 rentals. We'll see how far we can get on it, but yeah, let's get into the rentals on it. So, do you want to just share your screen? Would that be better, or do you want me to try and pull them up? I had
sent them to you so you could share yours.
Okay, so I have. So let's see here. I thought I had this one up already, but I don't see it. Fairview. All right. That was fast. Oh, man. Deal Hub. Look at that. Okay, so this one is... I'll scroll through the photos, and Ryan, why don't you just go on.
Yeah, so this is a property that we bought, and there's been some conversations, some questions with regards to how do we analyze rental properties. So we wanted to go through an example of a property that we own that we could analyze and show you how. So this is a property, it's a 6-family down in the Tower Grove area. It says 6 bed, 6 bath, so I'm assuming that each one is a 1-bedroom, 1 bath, and I'm pretty sure that's accurate. And it's 4,500 square feet, so if you're running the math, that is 750 square feet per unit. They're not terribly big units. They're 1-bedroom shotgun, I believe. I've not seen the property myself. I have analyzed it. Hold on one second. I'm trying to pick up where we did the rental analysis of it, Jim. So
would it be in Podio?
Yeah, I'm pulling up in Podio. So each of the units, I believe, is rented out for $500. Let's see. Nope, that's inaccurate. So the rents were below market from the previous owner. Let's see. It was at $450, $361, $750, $475. That doesn't seem accurate. So let me get to the estimator file. Yeah, Jim, if you actually...
Am I in the right spot here?
You are.
Look at that.
Yeah, so then go to the tab that says Master Sheet, Jim,
Okay.
and we're going to actually do this live because he didn't put it in here.
Here,
So
let's switch computers.
Do it. Do it live.
Yes, we're those guys. We are both streaming on the call right next to each other.
I look a lot better in this light.
Yeah, you do.
Awesome. That's sweet. Okay. So interest rates are low. Let's just keep it at that 5%. We're able to get money right now around 6%. So it's a little bit higher for us, but I think interest rates are going to continue to go down. As a matter of fact, this is a sidebar. There is someone I talked to a couple weeks ago that came to us and is interested in possibly getting us to borrow from them, and they're right now, before rates dropped, they were at 3.99% on a 25-year AM with 5 years. So for you investors out there, money is getting cheaper. So I believe 5% right now is high, but we'll keep it at 5. The purchase price on this, I don't remember what it was. Let's just throw out $250. I don't know. What do we have it marketed for? You were on Deal Hub, hopefully.
It says contact for price. Go into the Podio, maybe. 330.
Okay. So let's, for the sake of saying it, let's just say it's 250. Okay. Well, let's say it's 300. Someone's going to buy it for 300. Let's just do round math. And let's say they're going to put another 25 into it. So their total investment is going to be 325. The leverage right here. Okay, so are you going to put 80% down? I'm sorry, 20% down. You're going to put 10% down. You're going to put 5% down. Let's just say you're able to build in some equity. So you're going to be leveraged at 90%. So you're going to borrow. You're going to put 10% down, hypothetically. You're going to borrow $292,000. So you're in this for $292,000. What I want to show you guys on this is anything that's in yellow, you should potentially change. Anything that's not in yellow, don't change. There's a lot of numbers on this sheet, and you can get lost in it if you start changing everything. Everyone on this call has access to the sheet and can utilize it, and we want you to utilize it. So that's one of the reasons we're going through this. And we also want to show you a real life example of how we analyze these. So we borrow at 240 or at 20 years, typically 20-year AM. Okay, so I have 240. Let's just say, for the sake of saying it, you are able to borrow it at 300. So that's at 25 years. Okay, you got an additional 5 years. You're going to bring in, let's say, $500 per unit per month, or you're going to bring in $3,000 because it's a 6-family, $3,000 per month. We recommend 5% vacancy, keeping that 5% vacancy rate. If you're going to be higher, okay, do higher. If you're in an area where 5% is low, great, do 10%. If you're rocking it and you're at 1% on your whole portfolio or something like that, awesome. You can for sure put in less. I wouldn't recommend it. I think 5% is a nice conservative number. You have the opportunity to put in anything on legal. You have the opportunity to put anything on advertising, cleaning, any miscellaneous fees. The next one, insurance. Here's one thing that's a pet peeve of mine. Investors as a whole have a tendency to discount insurance. Insurance costs a decent amount of money, so don't discount it. I mean, if it's a $100,000 house, it's probably going to be like $1,000 for insurance. Don't say that it's going to be like $600. It varies the numbers enough that it's going to hurt the person who's making that.
Well, and sidebar on this, guys, too, like from an insurance standpoint, could you potentially save money there? Yeah, but if you're not properly insured, when the tenant's ex-boyfriend decides to light the property on fire, you might be out a lot of money, which, by the way, has happened to us in our careers.
It has happened to us.
So insurance is something that you really want to be properly insured. I don't recommend trying to skimp there, because we've had some big claims on our deals that we were properly covered, so we were okay. But
yep.
Yeah. So anyway,
That's a whole different can of worms. I'm going to go ahead and say it's $3,000. Honestly, I have no idea what the insurance is on this particular property, but let's just, for the sake of saying it, it's right at that 1%.
So when you're not sure and you need hard numbers, you just typically reach out to your insurance agent, and then they can give you a hard number on it.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Absolutely. Property management fees. You're going to get anywhere from the lowest of low 8% to the highest of high. You shouldn't be paying more than 12%. 10% right in the middle there. If you're going to utilize a property manager, keep this number there. Property taxes. On this property, let's see what the taxes were. Taxes were $21.68 for 2019. So that's going to potentially vary this year, but it only went up $40 from where you were. Water, sewer, trash. If you want to try to put that on the tenants, you can. You're going to pay for some of it, so you should have something. Let's say $50 ish per unit per month. I'm just ballparking here. Let's say 25. So 25 times
about 1,200.
150. 150 times. You're at let's say it's 1,800. That's 25 per unit per door per month. Okay, and then we always do 10% on repairs and maintenance. I'm a big believer that you should put in 10%. Unless there are times that we skimp on this, we'll go down to like 7.5%, only when we do basically a full gut on a property. So we do keep some properties as like vacation rentals, which we can't go into today. We don't have enough time. But if we do, we'll put in 7.5% because we just gutted this house. So it should not have more than 7.5%, at least for the first few years. So 10%, do not skimp on this. This is absolutely one of the ones that you cannot. So again, if you go through the numbers, it's 5%, 10%, and 10%. Those are standard. Those are, in our case, standard. In yours, I would advise it as well. 25% off the top. So that $3,000 immediately goes down 25%. And looking at this again, you're leveraging someone else's money, so you're paying them for it. If you were only getting $3,000 in rent and you had all of these expenses, your total operating expenses were $1,181. Your gross income was $2,850 because you took out the vacancy, hence the gross. Your net operating is $1,669. And then you're going to have a mortgage payment of $1,712, which means your cash flow on this particular property is $43 negative. So if this is something you want to pursue given these numbers, okay, great. I'm not going to say it's a bad deal. Everyone's got their own way of investing. We're clearly trying to sell it for $300, so we think it's a potentially good deal. I'm not trying to shoot ourselves in the foot. Here's where it gets sexy. So you're a negative 43. Before I get into changing some numbers, I'm going to show you another number that banks like to see. This is the debt coverage ratio number. They want to see 1.2. So on these numbers, they're not going to see 1.2. It's not there. So it doesn't make sense. But I would say if you're going to utilize this sheet, utilize the up top that I just kind of went over, and absolutely look at the debt coverage ratio because that's what banks will look at. The other stuff you can utilize, we just don't really utilize much of it. There's a lot of information here. So here's a couple ways that this deal can go from not so great to better. Okay, just by changing the leverage, you're going to put 20% down, and you're going to have a 30-year mortgage because you're able to get a bank to give you a 30-year mortgage because you're holding it personally. It's not a commercial loan. If you do enough deals, you're going to get a commercial loan. Okay, so instead of negative 43, you just went to a positive 271. Okay, I also talked about right now interest rates. Interest rates are what? Decreasing. I told you someone offered us or told us that we could get 3.99. So change it to 4%. So I just, by changing three numbers, instead of being a negative $43, now I'm a positive $426 per month. In addition to that, that debt coverage ratio number that I talked about, that banks care so much about, I went from below 1 on the first year to above 1.3 on the first year. Huge difference. This is how small little things can make the biggest difference in your world with regards to a bank and with regards to the cash flow of a deal.
Can you explain the amortization real quick up a little bit? That's up at the top, or it's in the top middle.
Where?
Keep going up. Keep going up. Okay, to the right. Yeah.
So if I breeze through this, I apologize. So amortized schedule. So again, loans are amortized at given years. So when I said that we had talked to most lenders are going to lend at 20 years amortization, which means they're going to give you a loan for 5 or 7 years, and they're going to amortize the payments at 20 years. So they're not going to make you pay it off in 5 or 7 years. They're going to spread out the payments as if you were paying it off in 20 years, but they're only going to give you a loan for 5 to 7. Not all the time, but most of the time they will then renew. That's where historically, that's where a lot of people got into trouble back in 2008, not because they missed payments, not because of anything else, but as loans started getting called, banks literally had all of their money frozen and called, and that created problems for the investors. So a lot of good investors who didn't do anything wrong lost their properties because they did not have a backup strategy that wasn't a bank.
So when you look at, if I can add to this, so in columns G and H, the closing loan balance and the amortization schedule, like that's how much like principal you're building up every year too. So for like Ryan and I, we do look at the cash flow quite a bit, but let's say we are a turnkey buyer and we already have good income coming in from our job. So we're not as concerned about the monthly cash flow. If you move it back to like 240, and like, let's look at just what happens with the principal buildup. So instead of 24,000 over 5 years, now we have 47,000 that has been built up over 5 years, and the cash flow is substantially a little bit less there.
Well, and keep in mind from a year-to-year perspective. So you made 97.73 technically because you bought down 8,600, right? So if you're gonna amortize it at the 30 years, your cash flow looks really good because you're at $5,000 cash flow. There's not that much of a difference though. 96.99. It's literally almost nothing. What you're doing is you're paying a property off or you're getting the cash out of it. What would you prefer to do? I'm not saying it either is right or wrong.
It depends on who you are, which strategy you're going to want to do.
It's less than $100 difference. So it's again, are you building equity or are you getting the cash and the cash flow? So there's not much of a difference if you're looking at it from the amortization schedule. Where it will differ is if you change that interest rate.
Great. So this was awesome. If you were like a turnkey buyer, Ryan, like what criteria be? What would your goal be for?
Everyone's is different. Everyone's is different. So what I was going to say on this is I'm going to change it back to the 360 only because it's closer. We try to get $100 per door per deal. So in this example, we would not quite be at that $600 cash flow that we would want. So it's not the easiest for us to buy rental properties, not given how we want to buy them and the interest rates that we have and the cash flow that we desire. The other part is that we're leveraging typically a little bit higher. We try to get 100% leverage on our property. So that just means we need to get a deal really, really low because our interest rate is going to be a little bit higher and our AM schedule is a little bit lower. There are absolutely people out there, turnkey buyers, that don't care so much about the cash they put in. Maybe they want to put 100% cash in and they're okay with getting this. They would eliminate this mortgage of $1,242, so they'd be at roughly $20,000 cash flow on a yearly basis for this particular property.
And from a turnkey buyer's perspective, what's so like awesome about this is like if you have somebody that's managing the rehab for you, they find it, they even do the construction for you, and and you fast forward 10, 15, 20 years, it's paid off. Well, I mean, 36 grand a year passive, that's pretty amazing.
Yep.
You know, like just from one building, that's $3 grand a month. You don't need many of those buildings to where you can replace your income and potentially retire a lot earlier than maybe what you could without having a rental portfolio.
Gotta put this a little lower for a short guy. So, you know, since I'm in Jim's headset, I think I'm going to take over control of this meeting here, and we're a little over on time. It's 11:01. Real quick, you know, I don't want to end this without asking if anyone has any questions. We went over a lot today. We went over some bad deals. We kind of skimmed through the way to use the master sheet. I think we probably will do another demo on the master sheet because not enough people utilize that sheet. So anyone have any questions, comments, concerns, as Ryan Campbell likes to say, confessions? Dodger, you look so pretty on video. All right.
And yeah, and the master sheet we do. I mean, we run all of our deals through it. That's what we use. It's what we use. Everybody's muted, so you have to unmute yourself if you want to say something.
Yep. Last chance.
I wanted to say, guys, this is gold. This Jim has been trying to get me to go into the portal to pull up this worksheet, and I haven't been, but thank you guys so much.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, and it's a really good for doing flips too, like the repair estimator tab, and yeah, it does a nice job. Takes a lot of the guesswork out of it.
So I'll add to that. It adds time on the front end. If you're not used to using a sheet or a deal analyzer or anything else on the front end, it's going to take you more time on the front end, which will eliminate time on the back end. I'm a big believer that as much as you can do on the front end, that's going to eliminate issues and time on the back end. I'd rather be a fire preventer than a firefighter.
Awesome.
Anybody got anything else? Thanks, Levinson.
Yeah, we got the Thursday Ask Me Anything tomorrow, and then we have the Friday networking opportunity for lunch. Please RSVP for that. We're going to be demoing the vendor portion of the Deal Hub. It's an exciting development. So Ryan, you close us out, Ryan.
Yeah, no. Well, Tanya asked, what are some of the most recent bad buys and what are you able to do to salvage? I don't have that right here. Dodge is waving. Hello, Dodger. So I don't know offhand. Sorry, Tanya. We can actually talk about that another time. And then Bryant Brooks just said yes. So I don't know if you're trying to talk. Did you have a question, Bryant?
I do, but I don't know. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Yep.
Awesome. So it sounds like even when you were trying to, because I know they talk about you make the money up front before you acquire the deal. But it sounds like if you don't have the right thought process in acquiring that property, you still can mess yourself up. You still can mess yourself up in the deal initially without that. So hopefully tools like this can help us out.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's the part of it. So we didn't tie necessarily our bad buys into the master sheet that we utilize, which has the deal analyzer, the repair sheet, everything on it. We did focus a little bit on the rental part, which we talked about and showed if you have your access to it. And yes, the other aspects of this sheet, the repair estimator, the deal analyzer for flips, those all show and help us make the best decision so that we can choose the best and right exit strategy for each property. And guess what? It's still an art, not always a science. With all the tools that you have and every tool that you could potentially want and have access to, there's still some factors that make this an art.
That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
This is awesome.
Running the numbers really helps you get. I mean, we're emotional people. Right? Like humans are just emotional by nature. As an investor, it's really helpful when you're being more logical and just running the numbers and going by the numbers. And this process and going through it does really help you It does help do that. I mean, it helps me do that. I don't know about Ryan, but yeah, you don't want to get attached to a property emotionally. That can be a recipe for
I agree.
I agree with
Or a
that.
bad buy.
Also, I agree with that. I think my bigger thing is, and just as Ryan kind of alluded to, even in running the numbers, if you're not running the right numbers, you still could get a bad deal. So
Absolutely.
knowing what numbers to run, as well as running the numbers, period, is just as critical. So having a tool like what we have here with the multiple sheets that are available, I think it helps us to really vet those things and not feel like we have to quote unquote lose our shirt. And again, there's risk in any deal that you take. There's risk in anything, but overall, just being have that full understanding of and clear path and be able to know the right questions to ask, I think is really critical. So thank you.
You bet. Appreciate the question, appreciate the feedback, and I really appreciate everyone being on the call.
Okay, so that's a wrap for this particular show. Go to doorstodeals.com/bonus004. You'll have all sorts of useful information there, including a YouTube video replay, show notes, and links with other great resources on them. So again, doorstodeals.com/bonus004. Go out, guys. Live your purpose, and above all else, go after your dreams. Take care till next time. Thanks for tuning into this show. For more episodes and resources that will unlock Doors to Deals, check out our website, doorstodeals.com.